Water. Water is such an important part of coffee brewing, and I understand how complex and difficult and challenging it might be when you're first starting out. Good news is there are so many different great solutions for coffee brewing water out there on the market that exists now today and in 2025. Now, things weren't always this way, but now there's so many different options. There's Third Wave, there's Lotus Coffee Water, there's also Apax, which we're going to be using, and I'm just going to showcase a little bit of today. No, this is not a sponsored video. I don't get paid to do this or any of that. Hopefully, maybe one day I can get paid by a company to make videos. Maybe that'd be fun. But anyway, there's so many different water mineralization options. So truth be told, I've been using Third Wave basically ever since it first came out and haven't looked back since. Of course, I've tried making my own mineral concentrates. Of course, I've tried making my own water solutions and things like that. But I always just ended up coming back to Third Wave Water Classic Profile at half dosage. Because at full dosage, you're at around 150 ppm, it just was a bit too much for my taste. The coffee was always a bit too heavy. It wasn't very vibrant and crisp in acidity presentation. And so it's not really something that I enjoyed a whole lot, which is the reason why I cut that in half. And so I've been using 75 ppm half dosage Third Wave water for years. And yeah, that's kind of what I use for everything. Unless it's a very specific coffee that requires a bit more attention to detail, I've just been sending it with Third Wave water. I mean, I literally have jugs and jugs that I've gone through of distilled water that I've remineralized with Third Wave water. And it works really, really well because it's something that I've used both in the States and now that I've moved to Korea. And Third Wave water has liter versions. So there's sachets for 2 liters, which is absolutely perfect. So let's talk about the coffee we're going to be brewing today. We're going to be brewing up Sidra from Finca Soledad by Pepe Hion, and roasted by Hatch Coffee Roasters, an incredible coffee roaster based out of Canada. They do beautiful, beautiful coffees. I've had their coffees quite a bit in the past, and also as of recent, because they are carried at a local cafe here called GML, owned by a big fashion company named Unipair, who also do incredible work. Shout out to Unipair. But nonetheless, Hatch, Sidra, and I'm wearing their Sidra hat. It's a super, super fun hat. And yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about this coffee and talk a little bit about what I'm going to be using for water today, which is Apax, but not these. I'm not going to be using these. I'm going to be using this, the Apax Lumina, which is which is especially made, that's not the word either, which is specially made specifically for Hatch. I mean, how cool is that? A water remineralization system designed specific to a single roaster. Now, this is super, super interesting. It's an incredibly interesting concept to me because this and giving out recipes to brew your coffees with and providing resting periods basically make it so the roasteries no longer have anywhere to hide. Before, if the coffee would be under extracted, yada, 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 the coffee wasn't tasting good, then the roasteries could always just say, oh, it's your water. You have to check your water. Maybe you're not using the right water. Maybe your ppm's too high. And then the customer will say, oh, no, actually ppm's just right. And then the roasteries will say, well, it's the mineral content that make up the total TDS of your water that's completely off. Well, now they have nowhere to hide. And this is such a fantastic thing because it takes the guesswork completely out of the consumer's hands, which specialty coffee is so fun in that as a consumer, you're not just the final consumer. You're also a part of the labor chain in that you contribute to the labor chain by completing it. You brewing at home makes you part of this labor chain and the value chain and the value system of this thing we love, specialty coffee, which is incredibly cool. It's an incredible privilege to be able to drink these beautiful coffees, right? Anyway, the Lumina. Gentle, bright, and sweet. It says it is seasoning for coffee. So there's a few ways that you can go about using this. You can literally put this and mix it with distilled water, which I am not going to do for the foreseeable future because I want to really become familiarized with the Apax system, because Apax is something that I've just only dabbled with in the past. I've not really gone like super full deep into the Apax systems. And so yeah, I'm just making myself a bit more familiarized, and used to what Apax systems are made of. So the lilac, tonic, and jam, and now the Lumina, made specifically for Hatch coffee. Super cool. So what I'm doing instead is I'm just getting my distilled water into my kettle and then heating it up, it's already heated up to 92 degrees Celsius. And then I am going to brew with distilled and then remineralize the brewed coffee after I'm done. So it says we recommend using 3 to 4 grams per liter of water or 5 to 10 drops per 200 milliliter cup. Not made for direct consumption unless you're into remineralizing your system, which I don't see how that could be any good for your body. Anyway, storage. Store in a cool, dark place after opening. Consume within 12 months. See best before date, which is really cool. Best before June 2027. Made in Australia. Cool. All right. So, Apax Lab. Hatch collaboration. Lumina. Beautiful packaging. I mean, Apax does incredible work with their packaging. And I'm shaking this up because you're going to see a little bit of the minerals at the bottom if you don't shake it up. And so you really want to make sure that everything's nice and well mixed together before you use these droplets, whether it's Apax or Lotus or any other concentrate that you make. It's good to do. It's a good practice. So this profile, gentle, bright, and sweet. It sounds like they're not really going for a profile that's going to be polarizing. This, to me, seems like a profile that's going to be right down the middle kind of a thing. And so with this coffee, I'm not going to use the Legome 01. I want to use the EK43S with my SSP brew burrs in it. So that way, at least one of the variables is quite polarizing, in which in this case, extreme, hyper clarity burst set. Especially since this is really well aligned as well. So anyway, let's go ahead and dose this out. And I'm going to share a little bit more about why I'm interested in this. So, like I said, in the past, coffee water has been, to a degree, a bit of a guesswork. Especially if the roastery themselves weren't really interested in coffee water, right? Which is oftentimes the case. It's still today, more often than not, roasters don't care about their water. Roasters don't even know about their water. So if your local roastery or whatever roastery that you purchase coffee from knows their shit and tells you, okay, this is the water that we QC with. This is the water that we recommend. With this type of water, you're going to get this type of profile. With this type of water, you're going to get this type of profile. That is rare. So if you have a roaster that you buy from that's paying that level of detail, that's an incredibly lucky thing. Anyway, it's going to get loud for a little bit. Oof. That smells absolutely epic. Okay, so today's recipe is going to be really simple. EK at 16. Honestly, I want to change the zero point to be a little bit coarser than at touch because I want to sometimes go even a little bit coarser than 16 with SSP brews. Just because I love grinding coarse. grinding coarse and using slower flowing filters, such as the UFO Type A, provide just such an incredibly unique profile, especially when you use a tight ratio, which is what I'm going to do today. So 16. We're going to use 15 grams of coffee to 225 grams of water. That's a brew ratio of 1 to 15. That might not be all that tight depending on who you are, depending on what kind of brewing style that you're used to. But to me, 1 to 15 is quite tight. 1 to 16.67 is generally what I'm used to. But as of late, I've been just experimenting a ton. Curry Brewers Cup Championship is coming up. And so I've been doing a prep for that. Also, with these new material Type A filters, I've had to do a ton of research and a ton of brewing to come to a recipe that I was very, very happy with. And one that was easy enough for everyone to be able to replicate at home. So, just going to rinse the filter. Not because this filter needs any rinsing to remove any papery taste, but just to set the filter. And doing it this way, especially with a UFO dripper where there's negative air channels, negative ribs air channels, it allows for you to really get this maximum level of consistency, which is what you're looking for in drippers like this with air channel designs instead of traditional ribs. Wow. 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 This is incredibly floral. There's very nice honeysuckle type florality that's present at the nose. A ton of yellow fruits. This coffee is a bit fresh, I must say. Today is September 15th, and this was roasted on September 4th. Yeah, so this isn't even a full 2 weeks off roast. So as this coffee ages and degasses a bit more, the clarity is going to come up even more. But even right now, a ton of yellow fruits, jackfruits, a little bit like tamarind type of tanginess going on here. Maybe a hint of stone fruits as well at the nose. Beautiful, beautiful coffee. Always, always beautiful coffees from Pepe. Let's see what the back says. Okay, aroma, hibiscus and apple. Flavor is apple juice, honey, and hint of licorice. Okay, so totally different than what I was smelling, at least from the dry aroma. But that yellowness can definitely skew and change towards something like apple juice for sure. A ton of like malic acid is what I'm expecting from the cup. Honey is a note on the flavor. And honeysuckle is what I described the florality as. Honeysuckle is a very, very sweet florality. It's not like jasmine or Earl Grey. It's not a very peaky and pointy type of florality. Anyway, let's brew. So, recipe is 45 grams, poured 5 times. The first 3 pours are going to be circle pours, and the last 2 pours are center pours. Every 30 seconds. All right. Wow. Wow. This smells incredible. It smells absolutely incredible. You see, I think minerals are so important in coffee brewing because it can literally change it can completely transform the profile of the cup. You can take a coffee that lacks texture and add different minerals to it and make it into a super creamy, super well textured type of cup profile, which is really, really neat. And so it's to a degree kind of like alchemy in a way. But yeah, so Apax does a very fun thing where not only do they tell you the composition, but also tell you the profile that you can anticipate. So for tonic, vibrant, bright, juicy, jam, rich, sweet, and creamy. Jam, honestly, is probably going to be the one that I enjoy the least. because personally, I don't really enjoy coffees that are rich, creamy. I prefer cups that are a lot more tea-like, a lot more just vibrant. And so, yeah, I think I'll really enjoy lilac a lot. Silky, floral, elegant. And Lumina, again, gentle, bright, and sweet. Seems to me this is kind of like the right down the middle type of profile. But there's only one way to find out, and so we're going to brew. I'm curious to know what kind of water mineral systems that you're using at home. So take this moment while I'm brewing this coffee to comment some of those examples down below. Ooh, that is intensely sweet at the nose. Intensely sweet. Wow. Yeah, I'm still getting a lot of those yellow fruits that I mentioned earlier. Kind of like there's some tropical fruit thing going on here. Jackfruit, tamarind, like I said, a little bit of peaches. But I can definitely agree with apple juice. There's definitely a bit of that like apple juice tanginess thing going on here. Licorice. You know, I'm not a huge fan of licorice, but I can see what they mean. And the fact that they said hint of licorice, which honestly, for the most part, a lot of these flavor notes that you find in coffee are hints to begin with. So if it's a hint of a hint, it goes to show how little of licorice is actually going to be present. And so I don't even know if this coffee is available right now anymore or not, but if you're looking at this bag of coffee, or if you're watching this video and you're going, ah, damn, I don't really enjoy licorice, so I'm not going to buy this cup, you should still check it out. All right. Coffee is done brewing. Total brew time was 3:20. I love coffee. I love how complex coffee is. I love how interesting coffee is. I love how intricate coffee is. I love how coffee tells stories. Amazing stuff. Anyway, all right. So I don't want to do a whole lot. So it says 5 to 10 drops per 200 milliliter cup. So I'm gonna do 5. I'm gonna do 5 drops. And then let's see where this takes us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. All right. Make sure you mix it real well because, again, we're remineralizing the coffee. This is distilled water and coffee. That's all there is. There's no other additional minerals in this cup. And so because we're adding it in, you really want to make sure it's well incorporated before you consume it. We're going to be using this beautiful 2A cup made by my friend over in Hong Kong, Gary, who's going to be competing in the World Barista Championships coming soon in Milan. Best of luck. This is Hatch's 10-year anniversary 2A cup, which is super, super cool. The fact that coffee businesses, especially coffee businesses, stay in business for over 10 years is an incredible feat. And so massive congratulations to Hatch. Ooh, that just smells incredible. Wow. All right. Take a sip. That is so good. Yeah, the flavor is apple juice. Apple juice, apple juice, apple juice, apple juice. I do still get a little bit of yellow fruits that are present, but it's just apple juice and honey. Yeah, that's bang on. And I get the licorice as well. But it's not unpleasant. Wow. 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 Yeah, and it's exactly that. The cup profile is very gentle. It's not the brightest cup, I must say. I think I can get this cup to be even brighter. But it's very gentle, it's very mellow, it's very, very sweet. Really nice texture, even using the EK with Brewers. EK with Brewers have this very I think Lance described it as clinical clarity, and that's something that I could definitely agree with. It's incredibly transparent. When something is so transparent, when something is so raw, it can be perceived as clinical, right? Like to say that something is clinical means that something is so like by the books and so clean and transparent, and that's exactly what this is. But with this Apax Hatch Lumina profile, there's definitely some added texture and layers going on in the cup. Really nice. Really nice. That's beautiful. That's absolutely stunning. So, I love that there are roasteries that are doing this. I love that different mineralization system companies are partnering with different roasteries to make brewing at home simple to the end users, that they don't have to worry about what water composition they need to use. And look, I think to a complete newbie who has no idea what to do with coffee remineralization or these mineral concentrate bottles, I would like to see a little bit more guidance as to why 5 to 10 drops, right? Like, what does adding more drops do to the cup? What does it do to the cup? I would like to see a little bit of, even if it's a general guideline, I'd like to see that on the box. Maybe it's in the big guidebook that they provide from Apax when you buy the full kit. It wasn't in here, but I would like to see that, because this is all logic based. This is all science based. This is all sensory based. So there's a reason why we do certain things. And if there's an explanation behind why you would want to use 5 drops over 10 drops, then I think it would be beneficial to provide that level of guidance to people that are brand new to using this type of product. Nonetheless, the coffee tastes absolutely amazing. Wow. Yeah, I'd imagine if I were to add more drops into this, then it would just make the texture a bit heavier, and acidity likely will tone down a bit more, and sweetness will likely peak up. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do exactly that. And for that, we'll use my gold 2A cup, the Martin edition that was gifted to me by Gary. So I'm going to pour a little bit here. And what I'm going to do, shake this up. I'm going to add one more drop because, again, we've already consumed a little under half of this whole thing. So even just one drop should make a substantial difference in the cup here. All right. So my guess is that this cup will be heavier in texture and sweetness and lower in acidity. Let's see if that's right. Wow, what a coffee. What a coffee to be doing tests with. Really, whenever I do these tests, I don't get to use these very, very expensive coffees, but today we're sending it. Yeah. Ooh. Actually, yeah, exactly what I anticipated. But this coffee just has such a beautiful malic acidity to it that peak of malic acidity really isn't seemingly, it just is not going anywhere. But yeah, it's just a little bit sweeter, a little bit more texture. But really, I don't think you need 10 drops. So whenever you get these Apax drops, I would recommend you start at the 5 drop level, which is the smallest amount that they recommend. for a few reasons. One, I think it does plenty well. Two, it saves you money. If you use 10 drops versus half, you're literally gonna go through this bottle twice as fast. And so not only is it cost effective, but it's damn good as only 5 drops from my experience thus far, which has been a limited experience, of course. But anyway, this wraps up my quick preview and introduction of Apax Hatch Lumina water droplet, which is a customized droplet remineralization system for a specific roastery. How cool is that? I hope to see more of these products in the future. I would love to see Apax do it. I'd love to see Counterculture do it. I'd love to see Black and White do it. I just love to see all my friends do it, so that more consumers can brew tasty cups of coffees without having to question, am I using the right water, minerals for this roastery? Thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Deuces.